when you're learning something new, for me, like learning like a super Locrian scale, would be difficult for me. So I would play them slow and longer durations, meaning like at least half notes or maybe even whole notes until it became comfortable. And I'm not thinking about it anymore.
Right.
They want to get to that, be able to play it as fast as they can the first time. And you're like, it doesn't work that way.
Super Locrian, we mean like a Locrian sharp 2 from the melodic minor scale?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, those are like scales that like I have to think about,
Right. Well, let's talk about that for a second. So if you're learning Locrian sharp 2 or Super Locrian from the melodic minor scale, when you think of that scale that you're not familiar with, it's funny, we did a video on how do you practice scales you're not familiar with. I took F sharp altered on piano.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's funny, these sort of melodic minor scales that are very cool, but maybe we're not as familiar with.
Sure.
So if you're taking a scale like that, are you relating it to its parent scale as a mode, or are you thinking of that specific half step and whole step arrangement?
I'm thinking of it more like, for example, this one of the guys in the Army Blues Jazz Ensemble in D.C. put out this 57-page PDF of every scale you can think of and every key, going through like normal changes, how you would see like, moving from, not like chromatically, but how you would see changes in a piece and stuff, and put it together so you could like, practice them and stuff. And so just to get familiar with the scales and then write them in different patterns, meaning like the scale would be there in its simplest form in eighth notes. And then he would vary the rhythm so that you would get patterns. You're building vocabulary and library so that when you start to improvise that you would have that information to draw from. Not necessarily having to think about it as you're playing it, but it's just going to happen more organically, naturally. You're not thinking about it. And so forth. So like I said, when I'm learning a new scale, I would definitely play them slow as possible so that I'm comprehending exactly what I'm playing. And then I'm not having to think about, okay, well that's, when I first learned my major scales, I had to think, okay, F sharp is okay, that's F sharp, G sharp, okay, oh, A sharp, okay, B. And
so, you are going through the half step, whole step relationship.
Right, like when I'm thinking about, that's got 6
sharps. Because you want to internalize it.
Right.
Rather than just look at it. And
not just necessarily just memorizing the finger pattern of whatever it's supposed to be, because that's dangerous.
Sure.
But knowing how to read it and what it understands it. Now, I'm not thinking that it has 6 sharps. When I play an F sharp, I'm not thinking about it. It's just there. It's here. It's internalized. I'm not concentrating.
Because of all that work.
Right. So the more work you put into it. So if you're working on Dorian scales or whatever it might be, those are like kind of the simplest, or the blues scale.
Right.
Those are the more easier ones that you can use over like a bunch of different changes.